Aschersleben round of the World Endurance Championship was worth double points to the teams, and a good result here could set up a clean run to take the championship at the final round of Vallelunga. The current world champions Phase 1 had an early blow with mechanical problems, but it was the Castrol Suzuki number 3 and the GMT94 Yamaha that were locked in battle as Honda Austria, the Benelli team and the Swiss Bolliger Kawasaki all retired with mechanical problems. Then at just past midnight, the Castrol Suzuki blew its engine and brought down another 6 bikes, which gave the GMT94 Yamaha a clean gap in front to wrap up their first World Endurance Championship with one race to go. But Suzuki pride was at stake and the fight was now on for second place. They say that all roads lead to Rome, and the French teams of Moto 38 Yamaha and Castrol Suzuki, along with the Yamaha Austria entry, were all in with a chance of taking second place in the series, and they were hoping that they would be given the thumbs up at the gladiatorial contest at Vallelunga, just 30 kilometres from Rome's city centre. It's a perfect setting for the last race of the World Endurance Championship with the balmy autumn weather of this region of Italy, and many teams were hoping to maximise their chances in this final race of the season by entering 2 bike teams. The Vallelunga race was one of the sprint races of the season. This was going to be a short 200-mile race with 2 mandatory pit stops and at least 1 rider change. Vallelunga was also a chance for the Italians to hopefully show their strength, and Ducati were represented by the Ducati Spring team, along with Dario Marchetti's Ducati DRE team, with both 998 and 999 Ducatis. DRD Racing and Scuderia Motociclismo had entered Aprilia's, and there was an all-female team, the Millennium Girls, on a Yamaha R1, and the factory Benelli team X1 had entered 2 Tornado triples. The paddock was also woken up by 2 classic 350cc and 500cc racing Benellis, courtesy of Italian bike collector from Valentino Rossi's hometown of Tavullia, Giuseppe Sandroni. It was true that the championship had already been decided in favour of the French GMT94 team, but the Italians just loved to party, and the last round of the 2004 World Endurance Championship would finish with typical Italian style. Such has been the influence of the World Endurance Championship this year that some of the most powerful people in motorcycle racing were at this final event, one of them being Maurizio Flamini.
I can say this championship is really growing. It's growing in the interest of the teams, in the interest of the riders, and also the manufacturers now are really participating very much to this championship. And we have very important people today from Suzuki, Yamaha, and we are particularly happy, for example, because Gimbert is today in the first row of the World Championship Superbike in Magny-Cours. He won the championship here, he won the endurance, and this is something that really can make the people thinking about the competition, the high level of competition that here in the endurance we have.
Also in Vallelunga, the managing director of World Endurance, Vincenzo Lamaro.
Obviously, we are working behind the development of this program since the last 2 years. As you know, this year was a fantastic season. The endurance arrived as first motorsports event in China. Next year, we are developing a new calendar. There are some news that will be disclosed in a few days during the F.I.M. Congress. And I would like to say that the large participation teams coming from all over the world will grant a great success for the championship.
New world champions GMT94 were hoping to confirm their status by beating the Castrol Suzuki in a head-to-head battle for their sprint race. But the Ducati DRE team were European champions and out to steal some thunder with the last appearance of their Ducati 998 being ridden by Marc Garcia, Gianmaria Liverani and Dario Marchetti. The Bridgestone Bikers team had entered 2 bikes for this event, along with Benelli, the Millennium team, the Swedish Fagerjo team and Yamaha Austria. It was bad news in qualifying, though, for Honda Austria. A big crash had brought down rider Irvin Wilding, who had broken his hand. Their Honda Fireblade had crashed at the high-speed Cavone corner, along with the Moto 38 Yamaha of GIABBANI. The Honda team had a spare bike, but were desperately looking for a spare rider. Another to crash in qualifying was the Kawasaki ZX-10R of former British KRC endurance champions Hot Tracks, who were hoping that they had enough bodywork left to start the race. But up front, GMT94, battling high track temperatures, had qualified in third.
Yes, we are already win the championship, of course. We are without pressure. But like every race we want to win here. For sure this race and this track is difficult for us with tire and setting of the bike. We need a little bit more grip, but the weather can be different tomorrow, and we hope a little bit colder. And I think if it's colder, we can win the race.
Perennial third-place man GIABBANI this time have managed to out-qualify GMT94 and have put the Yamaha second on the grid.
It will be a very hard race because, Suzuki has no other goal than to win. And also for Yamaha Austria, they want to keep the second place in the World Championship, and we want it also, so we have to fight very hard for that. And Guillaume is still very fast, but they don't care about, so they are free in the head to go fast. So I think it will be a very close-up race. But it's the first time we are second on the starting grid, so we hope that the race will be at the same image than the qualifying session.
But once again, it was the Castrol Suzuki number 3 that had qualified on pole.
Yeah, I think it will be a very nice race, close, because with race tire, I think it's very close between GMT 94, Yamaha 38 and Phase 1 endurance, I think. So I'm happy because this year, I did all the pole position, and it's good for me.
So a clean sweep of pole positions for Castrol Suzuki this year, with Phase 1 taking 4th from Honda Austria, both Yamaha Austria machines in the top 10, along with the local Motociclismo Aprilia. At 3.2 kilometres, the Vallelunga track has a start-finish straight that really isn't straight, the extremely fast Cavani first corner and a tricky infield section. Benelli's Paolo Tessari takes us around the track. Paolo says after the start you hit the first corner, which is Cavani, at high speed with your knee right on the track at about 240 kilometres per hour. It's a very good corner because the suspension compresses and you can really feel the adrenaline pumping going through here. It's fantastic.
Poi salti in uscita, salti sopra il cordolo a ruote pari, è una curva fantastica. La variante dopo Cimini.
The variante Cimini is a corner that you can take in third gear, and the bike has a tendency to lose the rear here, and we use this to let the bike drift wide. After changing up to fourth, you come to the fast Trincea, which is a very important corner not to lose time in.
Si esce di quarta e si va verso la trincea. Comunque è una gran curva, una curva dove si fa il tempo perché poi ci si lancia verso la trincea. Il Torrentino, la curva.
Then it's Semaforo and into the very slow Torrentino corner in second gear. Riders must understand this corner because many riders have different lines, but it's not an easy corner for overtaking.
Poi tanti sorpassi in gara, è una curva comunque tosta perché è lenta ma non è facile da affrontare. La curva Roma è la curva.
The Roma corner is important to get right for the best speed down the main straight. You take it in fourth gear, and getting this right means you can hit top gear very quickly for the start-finish straight.
Devi spiguarla molto per lanciarti in accelerazione. Terza, quarta, quinta e va verso il traguardo. Gas a manetta.
Yamaha Austria were going all out to try to secure second place in the championship by recruiting two of the best riders from arguably the best domestic superbike series in the world, the British Superbike Series. Both Sendo Dienza Ducati's Dean Thomas and Virgin Yamaha's Gary Mason have been drafted in to race alongside Horst Zeiger and Mike Edwards on the number 7 and 77 Yamahas. Even with all that experience, it was Mike Edwards who posted the fastest lap for the team in qualifying. With Phase 1 Yamaha electing to run a two-man team with Sebastian Scarnato and Stefan Mertens, that meant that Dean Ellison would be free to race alongside Freddie Moreira for the Honda Austria team. And as the bikes lined up for the Le Mans-style start, everybody was wondering what the British Superbike boys could do against the best endurance racers in the world. There was a lot of pride at stake as Castrol Suzuki were thinking that they'd been robbed of the championship title by an engine blow-up and were out to emphasise their dominance. And with many personal battles scheduled to take place all through the field, everybody was waiting for the starter's flag to drop. And at 1:30 in the afternoon, the race was underway with all the top four bikes away cleanly. With the number 3 Castrol Suzuki in the lead, the Moto 38 Yamaha alongside, chased by British Phase 1 Yamaha and the GMT 94 bike in 4th. The Bolliger Kawasaki number 8 got its customary good start and hit the first corner in 5th, ahead of the first of the Yamaha Austria R1s in 6th. But already Vincent Philippe was making a break on the pack, and by halfway through the first lap had taken a 1-second lead over the rest. A few early mistakes had shuffled the order behind him, and it was now the Yamaha of GMT 94 in second place, with the Phase 1 number 1 chasing in third. With the temperatures hovering around the 28-degree mark, it looked like the weather was playing into the hands of Dunlop and the number 3 Castrol Suzuki. Marc Garcia on the Ducati DRE number 9 had gotten away well from 8th on the grid and was now up to 5th place. The Ducati team knowing that their strength lay in being able to stay out on track longer than most of the other bikes, but also knowing that they'd be slower on the mandatory pit stops. Both Benellis were also in the leading pack. And as they crossed the line for the first time, it seemed that the writing was already on the wall. The first lap had seen the Castrol Suzuki open a gap on the rest of the field, and it looked like the battle would now be over second place. The high track temperatures had allowed Vincent Philippe to maximise the advantage of the team's Dunlop tyres, and with Vincent consistently being the fastest rider in the 2004 championship, it seems there was no catching him. But the Benelli team had suffered an early blow. The number 2 bike was out. Paolo said, "I was just about to lap a slower rider and I tried to gear down but couldn't stop in time and had to go straight on. But a small piece of gravel got into the gearbox and it's now impossible to continue with the race." With pieces of the Benelli gearbox on the floor, once again mechanical problems have put paid to the factory Benelli challenge. Soon it was time for the first round of mandatory pit stops, and with the Castrol Suzuki stretching its lead, second place was a straight fight between the Yamahas of Phase 1, GMT 94 and Moto 38. GIABBANI had managed to pass the GMT 94 bike before the pit stops, but both bikes would pit together. It was now a race to see who would get back on track first. As Thierry Mulot took over from GIABBANI, the GMT 94 passed them in the pit lane and rejoined the track in second place. Now it was time for the leaders to pit, and the professionalism of the Castrol Suzuki team was impressive. The bike was stopped for only 15 seconds. David CHECA on GMT 94's Pirellis just couldn't compete.
We tested a lot of the tires, and we did that. We did a lot of laps with race tires, and we knew that with this kind of weather, with this hot, it's really difficult to follow Suzuki. But we was not lucky. Anyway, we won the championship. Ocean's 11. The tire worked so well because the temperature was colder. But we never know. We do the best. We try to push for second position. Maybe you never know. If we do a mistake, we can win the race. Because my brother yesterday in Qatar was second, I third position. And 2 laps to the finish, broke the engine, and he don't finish the race. We do the best. Me, the team, and my teammate William Cost. And we hope to finish in top place.
While the other teams were dealing with their pit stops, Marc Garcia was still out on track with the Ducati DRE 998, but the pit stops were mandatory. He would soon need to come in. Team manager Dario Marchetti was watching the last race of the venerable 998 with interest.
This is the last race of 998. This bike make us able to win a European Championship this year, endurance. Here is very hard race for us. We are fighting for 4 positions. I have 2 wonderful teammates, my historical teammate Marc and Gianmaria Liverani. I try to make a very good finish part of the race for try to make at least 4 positions.
The 2002 British KRC Endurance Champions Hot Tracks number 91 was suffering from qualifying crashes but stayed well clear of the ferocious battle for second place between GMT 94 and Moto 38. The rivals wheel to wheel for most of the race, with neither team able to break away. Moto 38 rider GIABBANI was lamenting the high temperatures on the track.
You know, we didn't expect so much high temperature, so we were surprised. The track is very slippery. At the start, I made a mistake in the first part of the circuit, so I lose 3 places, and I have to fight very hard to come back on Sebastian Scarnato and David CHECA. And also after, when I coach them, I have to fight with them because, you know, they have super back engine, we stay in super production engine, so, you know, each time I pass him on curves in the straight line, I always get touching me back, so I try to push very hard to keep in front of them, and I know we can manage to keep that place till the end, but it's very hard fight. That's what we expected, but now we have to do the job.
Meanwhile, down in 7th, the Yamaha Austria fight for second in the championship looked to be out of reach. Both Mike Edwards and British Superbike rider Dean Thomas have been unable so far to close the gap to the leaders. Dean Thomas was more used to riding a Ducati in the British Championship, and the class of world endurance had come as a bit of a shock.
I think we're sitting in 7th, I think we are at the moment, and we've been there pretty much from the beginning, but it's definitely a little harder than I thought it'd be. I mean, there is some really good guys in this series, you know, and they're pushing hard, and I mean, we're putting times in like we do in BSB, you know, one after the other within a couple of tenths of each other, but we just seem to really struggle, and just a fraction, you know, with front grip today. So the temperature's a bit hotter today than it has been for the last 2 days, so it's catching us out a little bit, but I mean, you know, the Yamaha Austria team's doing a fantastic job, and I'm really enjoying it, and, you know, hopefully I can push a bit harder in the next one, be up there again.
But the other British Superbike rider wasn't having such a good time of it, caught out by a wheel change, something that Gary Mason doesn't usually have in British Superbikes.
I should know better, but I went out and obviously they put a new front wheel in. I'm new to this endurance. It must have pushed the pads out. I didn't just check the brakes on the way out, so I got to the, and you know how fast that is. Went to hit the brakes, no brakes. It's my own fault, straight on. You know, managed to just turn around, stop on and rejoin, but it took a while to get all the gravel and crap off the tyres. But no, just hard work. I just kept having, it's good fun though. It's just hard work. Just frustrated really.
The Honda Austria Fireblade number 5 had no problems, but rider Dean Ellison was a very late replacement for the injured rider and team manager Irvin Vilding, and hadn't even been on the bike before the race started. Nevertheless, still wearing his Phase 1 leathers, Dean was carving through the field and obviously enjoying the unique handling characteristics of the big Fireblade. Lying in 6th place and fighting for 5th, it was time for the Honda's second mandatory pit stop and for Frenchman Freddie Moreira to take over from Ellison. Though not as slick as the Castrol Suzuki team, the entire pit stop lasts only 20 seconds. Oh! While the leaders were involved in their own war, we would lose 8 bikes through the race. The number 51 Italian Fabi Corse team joining the team X1 Benelli number 2, Moto Team Klein number 76, the Italian journalist team Motociclismo Aprilia, the number 90, the all-girl team Millennium on their 69 Yamaha, Team Jet number 4, and the British Hot Tracks number 91 Kawasaki ZX-10R. Back out on track, and the Eurosport Benelux number 18 Suzuki in 25th place was lapped again by the flying Freddie Moreira on the Honda Austria Fireblade. With the gaps opening due to teams pitting at different times, Moreira knew that he had to keep up the pressure to try to take 5th place away from the number 9 Ducati. Out out nearer the front. The battle still raged over second place between GMT 94 and the Moto 38 Yamahas. The number 94 having the edge on power, with the Moto 38 only able to challenge in the corners in a fight that would last the whole race. 72 laps completed, and the number 77 Yamaha Austria bike is out of the race. Rider Horst Zeiger parks the bike against the entry to pit lane with a broken drive chain, with no chance of securing some points before the end of the race. There's good news though for the MV Augusta of the team Burger King Lust. A suspect clutch has held up well during the race despite the pit lane abuse of some of the riders, and the team looked like securing the MV's first ever World Endurance finish, along with its first ever World Championship points.
Yeah, we didn't know when you drive, you don't know at what position you are. I was a little bit slower than the first driver, and I had no idea if we are very far in the back, but we are quite in the front. Or for us, it's okay. We started on 20th position. Now we are on 13th, and for us it's quite okay. We never finished with the MV, and to finish in the points, that makes it's good for us.
But from start to finish, nothing could catch the Castrol Suzuki number 3. With riders Vincent Philippe, Christophe Kogan and Olivier Faure, the Suzuki has been unbeatable all season and only let down by mechanical failures. But that engine failure at Oschersleben had cost them the championship, and even the win here at Vallelunga wouldn't change that. The final lap, and Vincent Philippe would finish the 200 miles of Vallelunga nearly 50 seconds ahead of second place, in the process of lapping the entire field up to third place. A familiar sight now, the Castrol Suzuki with a celebratory wheelie across the line to take the win. And the obligatory burnout at the back of the circuit. But an unusual ending to the race, with the top 3 leaving their bikes on the main straight and joining together to enjoy the celebrations of the crowd. Once again, Moto 38 are relegated to third position, with Phase 1 in fourth, and Honda Austria taking fifth from Ducati Dre, with the two Kawasaki's of Bolliger and Diablo 666 finishing in the top 10. It's not a place the Moto 38 rider GIABBANI likes to be anymore, and team manager Jean-Claude Claperon's run of third places in World Endurance just seems to go on and on.
At the beginning of the race, we tried to fight with GMT, and it was okay. Also, Fred did a very good job with against Cost, so it was possible to catch them. But when I got back the pit, I have 15 seconds away from David, and the problem is that if we finish at the place we finish, we keep the third place in the World Championship. So I prefer to play for the World Championship than for the race. So I left David CHECA finished second, and didn't try to catch anyway, and just control what was behind. So
try as they might on the day, the Pirelli tyres couldn't match the speed of the combined Suzuki Dunlop Challenge, and GMT 94 was second.
Yesterday we knew that with Pirelli, with these conditions of weather, was so difficult to fight with Suzuki. I pushed a lot to keep the pace of Suzuki, but for me it was really impossible to do. Anyway, we are seconds, but we win the championship, no?
But once again, Suzuki are in a place that they've made their own for so long, the top step of the podium. They entered the 2004 World Endurance Championship expecting to win it in their first year. It didn't happen, but they finished the season with a win, and no lack of confidence for next year.
Difficult for the titles. We broke the engine and in Germany, so it's difficult. But normally Suzuki wins the championship each time. Faster on the practice, faster on the race. But sometimes win, sometimes sixth position or crash. So Maybe for next year, yeah.
For the race, another win for Suzuki and more trophies, but the season belongs to GNT94. As the champagne flows, plans are already being laid for the 2005 season. With last year's champions finishing the season in 10th place and Honda Austria coming 7th in their first season, the top 3 places are held by French teams. Will anybody be able to beat the French next year? This year, the awards ceremony was held after the last race of the season at Vallelunga, and emphasising the growing importance of the World Endurance Championship, it was attended by Maurizio Flamini of FG Sport and the FIM president, Francesco Zerbi.
Io penso che
Francesco Zerbi said, I think that World Endurance will have a very good future because at this moment it's a very strategically important championship, and for sure over time it will be as important as World Superbikes, Motocross and Grand Prix. With the World Endurance rider out qualifying all World Superbike races at the end of the season, it's clear that World Endurance will be even stronger in 2005.